Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of our refurbishing series on this old Gravely circular saw attachment. If you remember in episode 1, we cleaned this off, and notice we had some nice original black paint on the housing, red paint on the guards, so we know how we're going to repaint that. And but the main concern was the horizontal shaft was pretty much stuck. You could put a big bar in it and turn it, but other than that, it was a mess. And what we were able to conclude after taking it apart and pulling the clutch off is that my best guess is at some point somebody had locked the slip clutch down, saw blade had bound, woodruff key sheared under the clutch. This is the tapered clutch, not the spline clutch. With a spline clutch, this wouldn't have happened, but sheared the woodruff key, spun the clutch on the shaft, and then best guess is somebody just kept tightening down this clutch on that tapered shaft to try to keep it from stop spinning. And as they tightened the clutch, they jammed the tapered bearings together and bound up this top shaft. So we got everything cleaned up. We got the bearing reset. I've got this replacement three spring clutch that I took off of something else that we're going to use, and we got everything nice and freed up. So what I need to do now is I need to, I'm going to have to service this clutch. I may do that on a separate video. I'm not sure. Probably should do that on a separate video. But I'm going to take this shaft back off. And first thing I need to do is make 2 new gaskets, one for this shaft and one for this cap. So let's go ahead and do that. Somewhere around here. There we go. I've got my 9/16 wrench. And we're going to pull this back apart. You know, the more I was thinking about what I think happened with this, you know, I know sometimes in these videos it's real popular to bash on previous owners, and I may have done it too. And I know in private I've certainly probably said some less than nice things about previous owners, but in reality, you know what, we've all done dumb things too. But so I can't fault whoever did that too terribly much, because, you know, I've done dumb things on machines also. You know, it is what it is. What the heck? It was a nice riddle to try to solve. So got this out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for to tap out the inside hole in the gasket, slide it over, and then I'm going to tap the outside on that. So let's go get some gasket material, and I'll be right back. Hey, got my gasket material. I thought I threw all this stuff out. I made the mistake of cleaning my garage the other day, throwing things away, and thankfully I saved one cereal box. So I think I'm going to make, I need at least 2 for this. I think I'm going to make a couple extras to have on hand, because I'm pretty sure these are the same gaskets that the old style rotary plow uses to attach the horizontal shaft to the gearbox. And if I have to take this back cover off or something like that, it's nice to have some extras. So we'll clean this off so we have a nice clean surface to work with. And I've got some stuck on gasket on this. So I need to get the old gasket off so that the new one will sit tight on the cast iron, and that is a ridiculously thin gasket. But so it'll sit tight on the cast iron, we could tap on these nice sharp edges and cut those gaskets out. Let's set that aside for now. Get some scissors out. And we'll cut these out. Now, I do have another video. I'll go ahead and link it in the description of how to make gaskets. So I don't think we need to rehash that video here. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and time lapse this going forward. Folks, I am sorry about that. I meant to time-lapse the entire gasket making process, and in the process of moving my camera, I accidentally shut it off. But I did make the 2 gaskets that I needed, plus 2 extras. So now that that's done, we can move on to something else that we need to do for this project. So the next steps is I want to put this back together just to protect it for now, because I don't want to leave this thing open, get junk in there, accidentally knock this gear over and smack it up on the concrete, something like that. Just put it together to protect it. And then I need to take this guard off. So I'm going to clean, sand, prime, and paint this guard. I'm going to do the old 40s and 50s Gravely red, or the next closest match I can find for it. This part of the guard, you can see a lot of red paint. There's little flecks I can see in here. So I think this whole guard assembly should be red. And obviously the gearbox is going to be black. Of course, need to clean it up, paint the parts that need to be painted. And then I need to address this saw blade. So as I said previously, I would love to take this blade off to clean it. I think that would be easiest. However, I've seen exactly 2 videos on YouTube of people taking these blades off, and it never went well. It seems like it was quite a mess. And the problem seems to be that this spacer right here gets rusted on. It rusts to the blade, it rusts to the shaft. It does not ever want to come off. Never mind getting this nut off can be quite a joy too, because these things hit the ground, these threads get messed up. Every one of these I've seen, it's pry bars, it's wedges, it's beating on things, it's hitting them with a torch, which unfortunately is going to melt the seal in there. I don't need to do any of that. Honestly, I think it's going to be more trouble than it's worth for what I need to do. I don't need to take this saw blade off. I get the guard off. I can take care of the blade as is. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a palm sander, coarse grit up to fine grit, clean off as much of this rust as I can, maybe some navel jelly and steel wool too, and then clear coat it when I'm done. I saw a video that somebody had taken an angle grinder and a wire wheel and cleaned one of these. I've stripped a lot of paint with angle grinders and wire wheels on, thick metal like this. And if you're going to prime it and paint it, that's fine. If you're going to look at the bare metal, it's a horrible idea, because you just get swirls and arcs and it looks bad. But I think progressively finer sandpaper will get a nice surface. We'll clear coat it, and it won't look like a new blade, but it'll be nice and cleaned up. So let's go ahead and get this thing put back together. I cleaned the bolts and the washers with naphtha, just so if I don't have to take this thing back apart, I won't do it. I am going to have to service that slip clutch, and I think I'm going to do that in a separate video. But in order to service the slip clutch, I'll have to take the clutch off. And if I move that bearing around, then I may have to take this back out and reset that bearing. But I just want to show you something. Just get a good view of it here. These saw blades were made to lock either horizontally or vertically. And the way you change it is you loosen this bolt, which is the same bolt you'll see on any of these attachments to kind of snug it up to keep it from swiveling real fast. You loosen this up, this key rolls out of the way, then you rotate it 90 degrees, roll the key into the next slot, and lock it down. And that's how it switches from horizontal to vertical. But it's set for horizontal right now, and that's where we're going to leave it. So we got our gasket on, and let's just put these bolts back in. And we got all the surfaces cleaned. We got the old gasket off of the housing, off of this top cap here. Should seal up just fine. I don't I don't like putting RTV silicone on things. You know, I know when I was a teenager working on old cars, for some reason it was the conventional wisdom, at least how I grew up, the people I grew up around, is, you know, you change a gasket, you put RTV silicone on it. And I don't know, man, we always had problems keeping gaskets from leaking, and always had this ugly orange stuff oozing out everywhere. I don't think it actually helped. You know, if you had a bad mating surface, it's a great idea, but if your mating surfaces are good, you shouldn't have to use it. So we're just going to tighten these down alternating. And again, like I like to say, I know there's probably a torque spec on this. I also know I have no idea what it is. So, and we'll put gasket on the top. Make sure we got our lock washers on. And again, let's make sure this thing isn't bound up. Nope. We're still turning nice and free. I know we shouldn't have any issues with this thing binding up, but I don't know. I always just like to make sure every step of the way, because if all of a sudden you get the whole thing back together and it's bound up, you don't know which step caused it. Obviously, this cap isn't going to be an issue, but still. A fun fact, in the guides on these, originally there was no plug here. You had to take this cap off, and they said to fill this gearbox a third of the way up with gear lube. So you were constantly taking this cap off to check the fluid level, which I guess means you were buying gaskets. And yeah, there is no full plug on there. So you just have to take this plug out and, I don't know, guess at it, whatever. So, all right. We've got the gearbox back together. Everything's moving nice and free. Suppose the next thing we can do is let's take this guard off of here. What size? Yeah, it was not going to be 11/16. My guess, 13. I want to say 3/4, but I think I'm wrong. Oh, 3/4 it is. Looks like it should just be these 2 bolts and a breaker bar. Yeah, this guard probably has not been off since it went on. There we go. That one broke loose. Oh, that one was easy. Just another tip, a ratchet is not a breaker bar. Yes, I know I've broken a lot of hard bolts loose on a ratchet, and I've broke ratchets doing it. That's what a breaker bar is for. So you can break things loose without trashing your ratchet. Easy enough. Oh, that I might have to persuade off. Let's get this out of the way. Never hit metal on metal. That's how you break things. A little block of wood is a good thing to use. There we go. I'll take that off without risking damaging it. That's a little little greasy, not too bad. But yeah, like I said, I have no intention of trying to take that apart. All right, we got the guard off. All right, let's move on to the next step. It's time to take care of the guard now. I want to clean it and prep this thing for some paint today. I got to take this bracket off here first. So this is all going to get cleaned. I give it a light sanding and prep it, and it's all going to get red paint. So it's somewhere on here. I thought I saw some little flecks of red paint the other day. I don't see it anymore, but I certainly don't see any. I don't see any black on it either. So those are going to get painted red. The heads and the bolts will get painted red. And the bracket will get painted red. So just like normal, naphtha and some steel wool. That should get this all cleaned up. We're all done cleaning the guard up. I originally wanted to just clean that thing with naphtha, maybe give a light sanding over what was left of the original paint, and shoot a new coat of paint over it. But the more I looked at it as I was cleaning it, the more I noticed that there was a lot of rust embedded into some of the spots on this guard, and especially on this bracket here. So I decided the best way to do it would be to strip it all down to bare metal. So now we've got it degreased, paint, rust gone, wiped down several times with acetone, so we're down to a nice clean bare metal. It's time to put some paint on this thing. We're back down to the basement, and it's time to prep the gearbox and the saw blade for their final finishing. Gearbox is going to be simple. Just going to go at it again with naphtha and steel wool and wipe it down with acetone until it's nice and clean. And then we're going to use Rust-Oleum Gloss Black on that. The saw blade's a little different though. You can see there's a lot of surface rust on it, and there's also a fair amount of pitting. And I mean, the pitting's okay. It is what it is. You know, I don't expect this thing to look like a brand new saw blade, nor would I want it to. But I do want to get it, you know, somewhat cleaned up. So I'm going to start on the bottom, the underside of it, in case I mess this up. And I'm going to attack the pitted areas with some vinegar and a handheld wire brush. Try to get as much of the rust as I can out of those pits. I had thought about trying to use navel jelly on this, but man, we used to use that stuff years ago, and it is just incredibly corrosive. If that stuff happens to weep in and touch that lower oil seal, that seal is going to melt and it's going to be shot. So I'm not going to use navel jelly. I'm just going to use vinegar. Be careful with it. And, you know, then I'm going to use a vibrating palm sander progressively, finer grits of sandpaper, try to get that thing cleaned up. And then I want to coat it with satin finish polyurethane just to try to protect it, to keep it from rusting up so bad in the future. So let's get at it. Got the bottom of the blade cleaned up. Vinegar did great, as did the palm sander. You can see there's still probably, you can see the effects of the pitting in there. There's not a thing I can do about that, nor honestly do I want to. It gives it some nice age. But when you get close up in here, you can see there's a lot of dark spots. Now, somebody might know better than me. I don't know if whoever made these saw blades originally put some kind of like a bluing ink on them to keep them from rusting, until you got to use them, or that's more than likely. That's just some sign of good old age and corrosion. So I could clear coat this all splotchy looking, and I guess there's nothing wrong with that. But what I want to do is I want to put some gun blue ink on there. See if I can darken up this entire blade, give it a nice, deep, consistent tone, and then of course clear coat it afterwards, because I'm not going to keep oiling this thing up constantly. So let's see how that's going to work out for us. You can see that worked out okay. Kind of evened things out a little bit. I mean, there's still some splotchiness to it, and that's going to happen, but at least you don't have like bright silver shiny metal and dark spots. It's a little more even. So I think we've got a winner on how to take care of the saw blade. Well, it looks like that's a wrap for this project, folks. What started off as a locked up, greasy, kind of ratty looking circular saw I picked up at an estate auction relatively cheap has turned into something that's fully functional, and if you don't mind my saying so, looks pretty dang cool hanging on the front of my 43 Model L. Thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on another episode.